Welcome back to Ac3TV. I'm Justin Tippett, and this episode we're joined by Michael Meredith, CEO of the ATA. Welcome back, Michael.
Thanks, Justin. Welcome to 2012. We've made another year.
We have survived another year, which is always a great thing.
Sure.
Now, Michael, I think we've only got about 5-6 minutes to grab everyone's attention. So what I really want to cover off firstly is just how did you see 2011 unfold?
2011 was a bit of a challenging year for some centres. I think we had like a two-tier industry running last year. Those organisations that got through the GFC, were all established, were doing quite well. I think still had quite a good year in 2011. But I found some other centres, maybe not quite so much, they're still struggling with some fundamentals.
Yep.
Particularly those organisations that were new into the industry or just gone down the path of creating a centralised contact centre presence. I think they're still struggling with some of the fundamentals. So I think we had like a two-race opportunity run last year. Saying that, I think the industry overall still did quite well. You know, we still saw growth, both at a resources level. We also saw a lot of growth in relation to the functionality and the work that's been conducted by the contact centres. For example, the Queensland floods and the importance of the contact centre we saw during that period of time, where the contact centre certainly became the focal point of contact for the organisation, was an example of where the contact centres increased their strategic importance to the organisations.
Yep.
They were no longer just seen as a part of the business that took phone calls or talked to customers, but became of really strategic importance to the contact centre. So therefore, not only did the profile of the centre increase, but also the profile of people actually working within the centres. So we saw the contact centre management now become a lot more strategic and less operational than it had been before. The interactions between the centre and the rest of the business was much more refined, much more close knit, etc. So overall, I think the industry did quite well. I think we looked at very much improving our customer satisfaction ratings were up, staff satisfaction ratings were up, sales were up, etc. So by and large, pretty good year I think for the industry as a whole in 2011.
Yeah, fantastic. I tend to agree. There was lots of things that nature threw up last year that probably forced that along a little bit, didn't it?
Very much so.
Now 2012, really let's just cover off three key things that I really want to talk about is really around the industry, how the centres worked, and then what's happening for the customers. So what do you think are those big things to happen in 2012 around those three topics?
Okay, for the industry as a whole, I still think the old adage, doing more with less, is going to continue.
Yep.
It's not going to go away. Let's be plain about that. Budget constraints will be there for organisations. But
can I ask just on those budgets though, Michael, do you think now that because service is becoming more important, and probably a little bit on that third point you're going to touch about, that companies are starting to invest more in call centres?
Oh, there's no doubt about that, very much so, and particularly in technology as well.
Yep.
And we might cover that when we talk about the centres.
Sure.
But certainly investment in the centre is increasing, again because of the strategic importance and the realisation from C-level managers just how important the contact centre is to them. So there's no doubt budgets will increase. Probably not as much as the centre would love to,
of course,
but that's a fact of life.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that. So from an industry's perspective, I can see we're going to expand. And the contact centres will become much more of a contact point for the organisation as a whole.
And can I ask you quickly just around the trend with overseas and offshoring? There was a real big push of India and Manila and all those sorts of things. Are you seeing in 2012 that continuing, or is it starting to work its way back?
The offshoring, I think, will continue to decrease. I think it's a fundamental human nature that we like to talk to our own, per se.
Yep.
So no doubt about it that maybe some large volume, low value back-end processing could find itself in offshore locations. But I think the customer interaction would need to stay at the point of contact, and that's been verified through various research papers that I've seen, etc. So I think the offshoring will slow down. Outsourcing, I think, though, is still a market. I think there's still a market for the outsourcing, whether it be to help through unplanned course spikes, to get access to various technologies, to get access to knowledge and skills, etc., that may not necessarily apply within the contact centre.
Yep.
Because one of the things I did see over the last 12, 18 months or so was organisations who did not have a customer service strategy across the business. And so they're now moving to that part, and that, of course, is where the contact centre lies. And so they may not necessarily have the necessary skills in the organisation to help through it. So I think the outsourcing market has a fair way to go.
Yeah, and more as a partner, I guess, as opposed to just a strict outsourcing.
And that's where I think the relationship will change. It'll no longer be company X just saying, here, outsourcer Y, go and do this bit of work for me. There'll be much more linkage between the two organisations. So the outsourcer becomes, in essence, a quasi partner with the business, living by their values, their principles and things like that as well.
Yeah, terrific. Okay, and the third point, the customer.
Well, the customer, the end user, so to speak. There's no doubt about it. I think we're seeing an increase in the individualisation of service delivery to individual customers. So from the centre and organisation's perspective, it's all about knowing what that customer wants, how they want it, and when they want to do it. So as a result, concepts such as CRM will become much more important as we collect a lot more information about the customer, knowing that Michael likes to be phoned at this point in time or prefers to be text or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
And then customising the service delivery to meet the individual needs of the customer. So we're seeing several of our ATA members actually going down that path now, and they're getting great results from really that individualised. So it's not just segmenting a customer base by this type of financial gain or this demographic data. It's the individual customer and knowing as much as you can to know about that.
Which will make a lot of vendors very happy, I'm sure, as well,
Well,
to hear
it
that.
will be, yeah, because in the day we're going to need technology to help us do this, to capture all that data. We're probably capturing a lot of data now. When we do some 16 million calls a day, we're capturing a lot of interactions. We should be anyway. But then what do you do with that particular information? And that'll be the challenge.
Data is going to be king in 2012, no doubt.
Oh, huge. It'll be very much so.
Michael, probably the last thing I want to cover off is really around your awards program. There's been a few changes, I know, for this year, so to quickly just sort of walk through people what they can expect.
Really excited about our awards program. We've had our similar program running for several years now, so it's time for a bit of a shake-up. Did a big review, feedback surveys, etc. So we've actually gone through and we're really trying to now expand even further the value-added proposition of going through the awards program. At the end of the day, we come down to only a handful of national winners, so it's all about what we can do to add value to those people that do present. So we've included a couple of new categories. We've changed the dynamics of the centre nominations now to reflect that smaller centre, because there's no doubt a small centre is different to a large centre. We've increased the number of judges who are going to visit each centre now. We've built provision for centres to have a one-on-one feedback session with the judges, so that they can get some individual back. We've also tightened up the what we call our champion category, so it's more aligned to the role now rather than just a particular category. So we think we can add a lot of value to our awards. I know many of my members are out there now have already entered, or secondly are starting their work to get through. So,
fantastic. Well, we'll pop up on the screens now just all those closing dates so people can see when you need to get your applications in. So please look at the screen right now. All the details are there for you. Michael, just lastly, the standards. You put a lot of work into the sort of the accreditation and standards. Where are we at with that in 2012?
Standards are going very well again. In line with the increased professionalism of the industry, that's where the ATA is moving, becoming a professional body. Through our awards program, through our CCD program, and through our standards and accreditation program. Again, a lot of interest being shown. I've recently had a member who's actually changed the whole business structure of how they operate now based on them going through the standards process. It's quite a comprehensive process. It looks at all parts of the operations, and again, the value is not just getting a piece of paper on the wall; it's actually doing it.
Going through the process itself.
Do it,
Fantastic, Michael. That's all we've got time for today. So great to catch up again, and look, we'll see you again in a couple of months, and no doubt we'll get an update on all those things you've just mentioned.
Great, thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Michael.